For thousands of years, the story has been told the same way. A terrible monster, half man, half bull, locked beneath the palace of Crete. Every year, young men and women are sent into the darkness, never to return. Until one hero, Theseus, enters the maze, slays the beast, and escapes with the help of Ariadne's thread. That is the myth most people remember. The Minotaur becomes the villain. The labyrinth becomes the setting. But what if we've been looking at the wrong thing? What if the monster was never the point? Because if defeating the Minotaur were the true lesson, the Greeks could have placed him inside a cave, or a fortress, or a mountain. Instead, they built one of the most unforgettable symbols in human history, a labyrinth. The maze survives long after the monster is forgotten. The architecture outlives its prisoner. Carl Jung once observed that myths endure because they express structures of the human mind rather than historical events. Perhaps the labyrinth survived because it describes something inside every one of us. Not a place beneath ancient Crete, but a place beneath consciousness itself. The Minotaur may simply be what waits at the center. The real story is everything that happens before you reach him. The maze is the mind. Imagine entering the labyrinth. There are no maps, no windows, no horizon. Every corridor resembles the last. You walk, turn, turn again. Eventually, you no longer know whether you're moving forward or backward. You begin questioning your own memory. This isn't simply confusing. It is psychologically devastating, because humans rely on orientation to maintain identity. We know who we are partly because we know where we are. Remove direction, and certainty begins to dissolve. The Greeks understood this remarkably well. The labyrinth wasn't merely a prison designed to keep someone inside. It was designed to erase confidence. Every wrong turn forces another decision. Every decision creates doubt. Soon the greatest obstacle isn't the walls, it's your own mind. Notice how familiar this feels. Modern life rarely traps us physically. Instead, it overwhelms us with endless choices. Career paths, relationships, opinions. Algorithms constantly asking us to choose one more video, one more article, one more identity. The maze has changed shape, but it still functions exactly as before. The philosopher Søren Kierkegaard warned that excessive possibility creates anxiety rather than freedom. When every path appears open, certainty disappears. The labyrinth is possibility without clarity. It is the architecture of overthinking. You don't need stone walls to become lost. Sometimes all it takes is your own thoughts. Why the monster waits at the center. People often imagine the Minotaur as the danger, but think carefully. What threatens you first? The monster or becoming lost forever? Many travelers would never even reach the center. They would wander until exhaustion consumed them. The maze itself is the first adversary. Only after surviving confusion do you encounter the beast. This order matters. The Greeks placed the monster at the center because monsters are rarely our first problem. Confusion is, avoidance is, fear is. Only after wandering through those do we finally confront what we've been avoiding all along. Jung called this hidden aspect of ourselves the shadow, the part we reject, the emotions we refuse to acknowledge, the anger, the envy, the grief, the shame. The Minotaur is horrifying partly because he is human. He isn't entirely beast, nor entirely man. He exists between identities, just as our darkest impulses do. The labyrinth delays this encounter. It gives us countless opportunities to turn away, to distract ourselves, to remain busy, to never arrive. Perhaps that is why so many people spend their entire lives wandering. Not because they cannot find the center, but because part of them doesn't want to. Ariadne's thread. Before entering the labyrinth, Theseus receives a gift, a simple thread. It seems insignificant. No sword, no armor, just a line connecting him to the entrance. Without it, victory becomes meaningless. You can kill the Minotaur and still never escape. This may be the deepest lesson of the myth. Defeating your inner demons is not enough. You must also remember who you are. The thread represents continuity, memory, purpose, identity. Every person who enters periods of suffering risks forgetting these things. Depression, failure, loss, success itself, all can become labyrinths, not because they hurt us, but because they disconnect us from ourselves. Modern psychology often emphasizes grounding during emotional crises, returning attention to stable realities, breathing, relationships, values. These are threads, invisible perhaps, but essential. Marcus Aurelius repeatedly reminded himself of first principles whenever chaos surrounded him. Not because life became easier, but because remembering what mattered prevented him from becoming lost. The thread is not magical, it simply prevents forgetting. Sometimes survival depends less on strength and more on remembering where you began. Escaping is harder than entering. Most versions of the myth celebrate the death of the Minotaur. Few spend much time discussing the journey out. Yet psychologically, the return is often the most difficult part. Anyone can have a breakthrough. Very few can build a new life around it. You've probably experienced this yourself. You finally overcome fear. Finally leave a toxic relationship. Finally understand your childhood. Finally confront your mistakes. For a moment, everything feels transformed. Then ordinary life begins again. Old habits return. The familiar corridors reappear. Escaping requires more discipline than fighting. Because freedom demands repetition, every step back through the maze is another decision to remain awake. The philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche warned that anyone who fights monsters must be careful not to become one. Less quoted is the second half of his warning. When you gaze long into an abyss, the abyss also gazes into you. The labyrinth changes everyone who enters it. You never leave unchanged. The only question is whether you emerge wiser or simply more exhausted. The labyrinth we carry. Today, there are no stone labyrinths beneath royal palaces, yet millions wander through invisible ones every day. The endless search for approval, the maze of comparison, the pressure to become someone else, the fear of choosing the wrong life. We often imagine that happiness lies at the center, that if we just keep moving, eventually we'll arrive somewhere permanent. But perhaps the center was never the destination. Perhaps reaching it simply reveals what has always been waiting: ourselves. The Minotaur is frightening because he cannot be blamed on anyone else forever. Eventually, every labyrinth becomes personal. Every corridor becomes a question. Who are you when no one tells you where to go? Who are you when certainty disappears? Who are you when the only sound is your own footsteps? The Greeks did not preserve the labyrinth because they feared monsters. They preserved it because they understood people. They knew confusion shapes us more than certainty, that getting lost often precedes wisdom, that the greatest prison is rarely built from stone. It is built from the stories we tell ourselves about who we are. And perhaps that is why the labyrinth was never truly about the Minotaur. The monster simply gave the maze a face. The labyrinth itself was always about us. If this video changed the way you think, consider subscribing to The Strange Republic for more philosophical journeys into the strangest ideas ever imagined.